time to take another look at the morning papers now. Here with me reviewing them this morning are the assistant online editor of The Spectator, Lisa Hazeldine, and journalist Benjamin Butterworth. So welcome back for your last go of this. And we've looked at the honours lists, not just the New Year's honours, but also Liz Truss's resignation honours. And the Mirror has been pretty critical all in all. And one of the areas they touch on is the fact that the former Prime Minister has produced a list and it's being coincided with the New Year's honours.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a lot of those who are critical of Liz Truss's honours list, the vibe generally is that I think they don't believe that she deserves to have been allowed to bring out this list. She was only Prime Minister for 49 days, and a lot of that time she wasn't really even actively governing, if you like, because there was the death of the Queen, there was conference season, and then of course there was the sort of the time period after that when she was actually already resigned but was still technically sort of a lame duck Prime Minister. So I think a lot of people who are critical of the list are saying, well, you know, she was Prime Minister for such a short period of time, not only that, but left total chaos in her wake when she did leave, particularly on the economic front, and there are still repercussions to that. A lot of people are still suffering really high mortgage rates as a result of that, and so it feels a little bit unjust.
And three peers in amongst her list.
Yeah, and two of those were part of Vote Leave. They ran Vote Leave, the Brexit campaign, and one of them was her Deputy Chief of Staff. So these are political handouts. Obviously, most peers are going to be political, but it feels like reward for failure. I think a lot of people will think, you know, the ideologues behind her agenda that was clearly a disaster, both politically and economically, in her month as Prime Minister, as it basically was. You know, the idea that they get to make laws for life will be a bad thing. But you know what? There are lots of other deserving people who have got knighthoods and MBEs and CBEs. And actually, Tim Martin, the boss of Wetherspoons, has been knighted. And I know some people will say that's just because he's a Brexiteer, so he's kind of on brand with the government. But actually, I think, you know, he restores so many beautiful buildings around this country. Wetherspoon pubs are actually stunning. And I think if that's not a public service, I don't know what is. And James Whale, the TV and radio presenter, who has terminal cancer, he wasn't expected to make this Christmas, and he's been given a CBE. And I think when you hear stories like that, you know, someone that's done so much with their life and is in a situation like his where he's about to die, you know, I think there's a real value to be able to reward people.
Well, yes, and it's not just people who are in the public eye as well, and we'll be familiar with those names, but there are so many people who work in their communities and make a huge difference. And of course, they make up, I think, probably the bulk of the awards, don't they? And some extraordinary stories that you read each year about what individuals are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my personal favourites is Rizwan Javed, who is an employee on the Elizabeth line, and off the top of my head it was something like 15 people.
29.
29, thank you, there we go, even more, who he's essentially spotted on platforms around the station who are having suicidal thoughts, thinking of ending their lives, and he's been able to go up to them, speak to them, and actually get them the help they need. And I think that's remarkable. I think that is what the essence of the New Year's honours should be, and is really at its best.
That's right, exactly. So lots of really interesting stories to delve into in the papers, and they do give the awards, the political ones and the others, plenty of coverage, don't they? In the meantime, take us to the front of the eye, Benjamin, because a lot of people might have had a frustrating time on the railways this last year, but the eye suggesting that it may continue into the new year.
Yeah, I mean, the nub of it is that New Year's Eve is going to be a nightmare. So there have been ongoing problems with the trade unions representing rail workers, the government and companies, particularly companies like Avanti, which is the West Coast from London to Manchester and to Edinburgh, and they have for a long time been refusing to do overtime, and that's been a major dispute that's meant that, particularly on places like the West Coast Main Line, there's been a shortage of trains and a shortage of workers and a lot of disruption. Well, New Year's Eve is a Sunday this year, so it would have been reliant on heavy amounts of overtime for the railways to work, to go through midnight and into the night as they normally would. And basically, take ScotRail, for example, it's going to stop running at 7 p.m. on New Year's Eve because they can't get the staff willing to do the overtime. Now, that is obviously a nightmare when everybody wants to go out to Hogmanay and all the rest of it. And so there's going to be a pretty big problems. There's also 75-mile-per-hour winds predicted, so some unpredictability in even the trains that will be running. And they're warning people just not to rely on the trains at all.
Yeah, that's right. And we've heard about flooding today on the line out of St Pancras as well. So more kind of travel misery for those people affected. But take us to a completely different story, Lisa. The front page of The Sun. And this is a warning from Pep Guardiola. So what's he been saying here?
Yes, absolutely. Sorry,
you haven't got a copy. Do you want to have mine?
Have mine.
Here you go.
Oh, there we go. Got it. Sorry. So he has been warning his footballers to essentially be a little bit more guarded on social media, to not publicise what they're doing, where they are, and that all comes after Jack Grealish, the footballer, had his home burgled a couple of days after Christmas, terrifyingly, while he and his family were in the house, and goods, I think, up to about $1 million. Yeah, which is really, really scary, regardless of whether or not you're a famous footballer. And I think about £1 million worth of sort of valuables were stolen. And Pep Guardiola is basically saying to his footballers, just be a bit more careful when, people will be watching you.
I mean, the thing is that, a number of footballers have been targeted, haven't they? And if you see somebody on television playing football, you know they're not at home. I don't know what else the footballers can do. Everyone knows that they're very well paid.
I'd be terrible at burgling their houses because I don't watch football, so I have no idea whether they're at home. But,
I'm hoping that's the only reason why you
I also don't intend to burgle. But the other day I said, I saw some friends' pictures, and I said, I hope you're having a lovely holiday. These are two people that are in the public eye. And then she replied to me saying, we're not on holiday, we've just got back from our 2 weeks, but we only post that we're away, we only post our holiday pictures once we're back, so that people don't know that we're out of the house. And I thought that's a very good idea.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about it in that way, and I'm not as famous as these people, but actually people do put themselves at risk when you post all your holiday pics, because if anyone knows where you are, they can help themselves potentially.
Now I really want to know who your famous friends are, but I'm suspecting that you're not going to divulge that.
Not there, no.
I'll try Matt in the break. Let's move on. I've no idea where we're going next. We're going to a story inside the Mail concerning Rishi Sunak. There it is. Rishi to tour UK in New Year fight back in a year that we expect there to be an election.
Yeah, he's basically, he confirmed it at Downing Street Drinks a few weeks ago that there'll be an election this year. It could have been January 2025, but I'm not sure anyone can bear that. And he's doing a fight back, which feels a lot like deja vu, because I'm pretty sure we get this headline most months. But he's going to go around doing town halls. They're not going to be so heavily publicised. And instead of the usual New Year's speech, which leaders give, Keir Starmer is giving one, Richard Tice from Reform UK is giving one, but Rishi Sunak isn't going to do that. He's going to go and meet the people. And this kind of gives me echoes of John Major.
Yeah, standing on his soapbox.
Exactly.
I was just thinking that.
And he managed to turn the corner a little bit with doing the campaign in that form. So maybe that's what Rishi Sunak is going for. There's also a suggestion of a May election. The spring budget is a bit earlier. Emily Thornberry yesterday said it's the best kept secret in politics that the election will be in May. The bad news is that the same story has the Tories on 23% and Labour on 45%. And actually, speaking of Liz Truss, when they did the polls 12 months after Liz Truss left office, the Tories were about 0.5% lower in the polling than when she left, and that was seen as a disaster. So they've actually gone ever so slightly backwards quite incredibly in the last 12 months.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see if that at all makes any impact on the polls. We've just got a minute left, so I'm going to take us to the front page of the Daily Star, because Lisa, you picked this out, and this is the return of the beavers in Britain.
Yeah, beavers in Britain. And they look so happy, but essentially...
Genuinely looks really happy.
Just a cute little smile, but yes, basically the story is that beavers are being returned rewilded in Scotland. And actually this is part of a wider trend. I think it's something like 6 or 7 counties across the UK now, across Britain, who have had beavers reintroduced, amongst them London and Cumbria as well. And beavers are really great for the environment. They are really sort of well, they're really busy in their natural habitats. They're building dams, sort of stemming waterways, that sort of thing. And essentially, where beavers go, a lot of other wildlife will follow. So people are very hopeful that having beavers back, particularly when they've been extinct for the past 400 years or so, should be really good for our ecology.
Yeah, fantastic. And I love the way the Star always calls scientists boffins, and here they call them eco-boffs. Eco-boffs are really happy, according to the Star. Anyway, lovely to see you both. I can say Happy New Year. I know it's a little bit early, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Yeah,
really
Happy New
nice
Year.
to have your company this morning. Thanks so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.